The mark of Legacy Kitchen is simple. We offer numerous dishes like chicken enchilada soup, prime filet and loaded baked potato, baby back ribs, and so much more. At Legacy Kitchen, we serve American fare, crafted cocktails, and we offer a great selection of wines by the glass. Metairie at Betts and Martin Berman, and in the Warehouse District at Chapatulas and Girard.
Located at 649 Yetta Avenue in Harvey, Louisiana is Logo Express. Logo Express provides custom embroidery, custom screen printing, and a large array of clothes and accessories. Our new equipment allows us to take care of multiple large orders in a short amount of time. Logo Express provides logos for reunions, social or business club events, school organizations, and even items to wear to work. Logo Express Marketing, Inc., right next to West Jefferson High School, 504-367-7393.
Frenchie's Art Gallery, located on historic Oak Street beside the Maple Leaf Bar. With over 3,000 square feet of space, it features a large gallery front room and Frenchie's personal art studio. Frenchie's Art Gallery is also connected to the Maple Leaf Courtyard, which is ideal for the New Orleans night scene. Frenchie's Art Gallery, 8314 Oak Street. Yeah, you're right.
So here's the bottom line. Well, it's funny that you say that. Let me tell you.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander. I want to thank Derek Freeman in the MFG. Well, minus a little Derek Freeman, and he's not here. He's usually our drummer. Also, James Martin. Well, they're shooting a little scene from NCIS New Orleans, but we also have, Devin Taylor's here from the band. He's a regular. We've got Josh on drums. We got Ryan on trumpet tonight, filling in, and my old friend, a guy that I've known for many, many years, 2 decades plus, Charlie Wooten, formerly of Royal Southern Brotherhood. He's been with many bands, Zida Funk. Charlie Wooten Project, now he's with the New Orleans Suspects, the greatest bass player I've ever heard. True story. Hey, we got a big show for you right now. Last week, we had the Hall of Fame show. It was Ricky Jackson, it was Deuce McAllister, Dale Brown, etc. Well, this week, it's going to be a lot more fun. We're going to have guys that are characters. Bobby Hebert, one of the greatest guys I know. He's one of the most fun guys as well. We're going to have a great, great time with him. And we have a very special surprise for him at the end of his segment and a guest for later in the show. I'm also going to have Fletcher Mackel right here from WDSU, Channel 6. Great sportscaster in town. We're going to talk Pelicans and their nosedive, talk a little bit about what's going on with the Saints and free agency and a player that's visiting today. Talk about the draft and some guys that we might want to get in a special tribute to number 12. One of the greatest Saints of all time, Marcus Colston. So it's going to be big. But next, I've got a former coach at LSU. He was an assistant with John Brady in basketball. In fact, he was the youngest assistant coach at the time in SEC. And then he became a coach at a couple other places. And then last year, he was the head coach for the Tennessee Volunteer basketball team. And he had to leave through some stuff that going on with violations. But his name is Donnie Tyndall, and he's coming up next on Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander.
You're watching WLAE, New Orleans Public Television. Find us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Welcome back, Crescent City. That's Derek Freeman in the MFG, minus Derek Freeman. Well, he's filming a little NCIS right now with James Martin, our saxophone. But I want to thank Charlie Wooten and the rest of the band for coming. Devin Taylor, of course, is with the band regularly. We'd appreciate him. But my first guest of the show, well, we've had a bunch of football guys, a lot of Saints, former Saints guys, Hall of Famers, current player in Delvin Breaux. But we're going to my favorite sport right now, basketball, and a guy that I've known for 20 years. His name is Donnie Tyndall. He was a former coach at LSU, an assistant basketball coach with John Brady. In fact, when he got that job, he was the youngest assistant in the country at 25, and he had just come off of being a head coach at the age of 24 and leading a team to 30 wins. In fact, this guy has more wins at 3 different schools he's coached than anybody else that coached those schools. 30 at St. Catherine. He's also got 25 wins at Morehead State with a big victory we'll talk about later. And he has the record number of wins at Southern Miss at 29 wins. So he's formerly been the head coach of Tennessee. And they had a little thing going on lately, and we're going to get into that later as well. But welcome once again to the show. Good to see you, bud.
Great to see you, Scott. Appreciate you having me on.
Well, we go back, man. I mean, I remember 20 years ago when I was doing some writing, and I had that show Countdown to Signing Day Hoops. I was coming to visit John Brady in the LSU program back in the late 90s, and I saw this little young coach with a lot of fire in his belly named Donnie Tyndall. And take it from there. Tell us how you got that job to come down to the Bayou.
Well, it's amazing how quickly time goes, and I remember you coming to Baton Rouge like it was about a week ago, but I was a junior college head coach at St. Catherine, and I say this jokingly, but it's the truth. Coach Brady just got the job at LSU. Kermit Davis was the head coach at Idaho. We were friends. Coach Brady hires Coach Davis as his associate head coach, and they needed a guard, and they also needed a third assistant. Now, I think the guard I had was probably more important than me being hired than me.
I see where you go with this, because LSU has a history of that. Everybody knows Stanley Roberts. They brought his high school coach in just to get him, and that happens at a lot of places. But talk about the journey. I want to just let people know, obviously, if you follow coaching, coaches are hired to be fired. And that's unfortunate because I think the leash is sometimes too short. But we have a graphic here, the life of a coach, and you're only 45 years old. I mean, you've had a lot of success in your young head coaching career. You already have 216 wins. And I'm going to say this. I didn't put St. Catherine in there because he coached there for a year when he was 24 years old, 4 years at LSU. Went up to Moscow, Idaho. By the way, I was just at Washington State, so I know that's in the middle of nowhere. And I know she only stayed 1 year. Yep. And then then Middle Tennessee State, you followed your friend Kermit Davis, who was the head coach there. You got your first head coaching job at Morehead State, and that was a big deal because you beat one of the greatest of all time. Southern Miss, amazing success, and then the 1 year at Tennessee. Talk about the journey and what it's like for college coaches and coaches in general because they have to get uprooted so often.
Well, there's been a lot of moves, as you can imagine, as you just mentioned. The biggest thing is it's about getting an opportunity, and I was very blessed and fortunate that Coach Brady gave me, a guy at 25 years old, to be an assistant coach in the SEC, as you mentioned, the youngest guy in the league at that time. We had great success, and because of that success, I was, afforded other opportunities. Went to Idaho, which Moscow, Idaho, I've told people is almost like being in Moscow, Russia.
No doubt,
it's a whole other world out there.
Especially in the winter, it's cold.
But and then Coach Davis got the Middle Tennessee job the very next year. I loved working with him at LSU. He hired me as associate head coach. Had a great 4-year run there, and then was very, very fortunate to be named the head coach at my alma mater, Morehead State, which a lot of people at the time said, don't take the job, it's a dead end, and we had unprecedented success. Had a young guy named Kenneth Fareed that was pretty special
They
at
also
that time.
told Kenneth Fareed, don't go there. Remember, all his friends were like, what are you doing that for? There he is right there, the animal. Well, since we're on this, might as well talk about it. Your greatest win ever. You beat Rick Pitino. You were a 13 seed. He was the 4th seed. Obviously, Louisville's been a power, national championships around there. Yep. And what was that like, that whole game? And kind of go through it, because that's as big as it gets.
Well, when I was playing at Morehead State, Coach Pitino was the head coach at Kentucky. And so you can imagine, he was a legend in that state.
And by the way, Morehead State is in eastern Kentucky for those that don't know.
Exactly. And I grew up looking up to this guy. He was a guy at the time that, as a young coach, you wanted to be like Coach Pitino. And so we're playing them in Louisville. And we'd played them 2 years earlier in the NCAA tournament, and they beat us. They were the #1 overall seed. So now my guys at that time were mostly sophomores. Now they're seniors. Louisville was obviously a great team again, runner-up in the Big East behind UConn, who won it all that year.
Right, yep.
But there was no intimidation factor this time, and our guys felt like they could win the game, which is so important, as you know. We're out in Denver, where Kenneth now happens to play. And the whole moment as the game's unfolding was surreal. And I said in our huddle, we had the ball with about 30 seconds to go. We're down 2. I said, we're going to go for the win. I had a dream about this, guys. We're going to go for the win. I want you to shoot the 3, DeMonte, just hard stutter, pull up. We're going for the win. Knock this thing in.
I got to talk about this because I read about this last night. You're down 2.
Yep.
You're not even going for the tie. And then what I read was like you said, hey, I dreamt about this last night. You're going to be in this position, DeMonte, who, by the way, your second leading scorer was 0 for 5 from 3, and he only had 5 points this game. So were you really believing in him at that point?
Well, I did. And
you better have.
I don't know if I necessarily dreamed it, although I did believe that we could do it. And I was up about 3 in the morning getting my notes together. But DeMonte was our best guard. He was first-team All-League. He was actually MVP of the conference tournament the week before.
Right.
And he had struggled that game. But he was the guy that could create his own shot. He was a senior. And I'll never forget when we got up out of that huddle, he looked me dead in the eye and he said, Coach, I got you. This
Jimmy
one's in.
Chitwood style?
Yeah, no
doubt. He goes, give me the ball, I'm shooting the ball.
That's right.
Well, Rick Pitino, who I've actually worked with when he left the Celtics before he took the Louisville job, he did a year doing the tournament with Tim Brando, and he has told me later, he said, that is the toughest loss I've ever had. I mean, no offense, Morehead State comes out of nowhere and beats them. That was huge. And by the way, no secret to coaching NBA players like Kenneth Fareed. You had a guy at LSU with John Brady. I know you had a hand in getting, and Stromile Swift, and several other NBA players. I mean, I'm going to have a list here. Josh Richardson, who's doing great things with the Heat right now.
He is.
You had him at Tennessee. Ronald Dupree, Jabari Smith. People forget about Jabari Smith. That had to be reminded. And he had some time with Sacramento, and Maurice Carter played with the Lakers. Taurus Bright, another great player right here from Slidell area.
Yep.
He played for you. And then Dwayne Davis, another great guard you had at Southern Miss.
Yeah, Dwayne was first-team All-League. Taurus Bright was actually co-freshman of the year with Joe Johnson back in the day. And a great group of guys on that list, as you mentioned. You see that list. If we had those guys on the same college team, we'd be pretty darn good. Stromile, the number 2 overall pick, had a great 8, 9, 10-year career.
Yes,
Ronald Dupree, who's a great young coach now at LSU, but was a phenomenal player. So good players make good coaches, as you know, my man.
All right, I got to ask a quick question. What was your favorite time in the Bayou? Like, I mean, we're in New Orleans, so I've got to ask.
Well, no question, that 2001 season where we made the run to win the SEC championship. I think that really solidified Coach Brady as one of the best coaches in the country. It solidified our program. We make a Sweet 16 run, and we're doing all this, if you remember.
Y'all lost me $100 on that. I'm going to come back because I sat with Nate Odoms, who went to Wisconsin. I just remember this. And he played for the Buffalo Bills at the time. And we're sitting watching the game, and he said, you want to bet on your Tigers? And I'm like, against Wisconsin? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I threw 100 down, and we didn't win.
I'm still not over that loss. We really felt like if we get by Wisconsin, we had a legit chance to win it all. And at one point in the season, our team was the best team in America. We'd beat Arizona by about 40. We beat Kentucky by about 30. Our team was rolling, and we were good at the end of the season, just not quite as good during that one little stretch.
All right, Coach, you got some explaining to do. It's not what you think. I'm going to show a picture right here of you in a Tennessee, suit, I'm assuming. You go all Bruce Pearl on us with this. It looks like you're yanking the player off the court. And I have several others, but I'll just save the embarrassment and have one. So what about this jacket, and where is it now? You know,
it's a Tennessee tradition in the Vanderbilt game to wear the orange blazer. And I jokingly said, obviously, that blazer doesn't do my physique a whole lot of good, but that was the heat of the moment. We came back and beat Vanderbilt, and we were down, I believe, 5 with 11 seconds to go, and somehow came back, tied it, and won the game in overtime. It was a huge win for our young team, huge win for our fan base, and as you can see, you get a little stressed out / uptight at times in those rivalry games, Scott.
Absolutely. Hey, by the way, speaking of stressed out, I know you've had an interesting year. And it's the elephant in the room. I got to talk about it. NCAA violations caused you to leave Tennessee. Some stuff that happened at Southern Miss. You have a compelling case, and I know you can't talk about everything right now, but I want to kind of get out there what's going on with it and where do you think you stand with it?
Sure, the whole deal revolves around a situation that happened at Southern Miss, and it's so unfortunate, Scott. In these situations, you're not allowed to comment. So this entire year we go through the investigation at Tennessee, and now the year that I've been out, the case has kind of went on for almost 2 years now. I just had my hearing a little over a month ago. We're expecting some type of ruling here in the next 4 to 5 weeks. I feel really good about the hearing and how it went. You never know about those situations, but I do know this. About 99% of everything that's been written about me is untrue. It's totally false, and you can't give specifics or talk about it, unfortunately, till the case is over with. But when it is over, I'll certainly be able to talk about the situation more in depth, and I think people will be really interested to hear my side of things, which I've never got to talk about.
Well, you will, and I've known you for 20 years well. I mean, heck, I even wrote a recommendation for your first head coaching job. I know that your integrity, and I'll stick by you all day long. And by the way, this guy, in a 6-year stretch, Morehead State and Southern Miss in a 6-year stretch, one of the greatest winning percentages in college basketball. 24-win average. He had 143 wins over that 6 years. The man was born to coach, and he'll be back in. He's only 45. Bruce Pearl's coaching the SEC again. You're going to be back. Donnie, great to see you. Love you, brother. And we'll catch you on it. We have a little tradition we're starting here.
Okay.
I know this is a football, but we're going to have you sign. All the guests you sign right here in that big fat part over there. And we want to thank you once again.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. It's been fun, Scott.
Absolutely.
And proud of what you're doing as well, my man.
Thank you, my man. Appreciate it. Well, this ain't your last time. We'll have some more fun down the road. Hey, we're coming back. I've got a great show. I've already told you I've got Bobby Hebert coming up in a couple segments, and also a very special guest at the end. But next, one of my favorite broadcasters, not just in New Orleans or state of Louisiana, in the entire country. His name's Fletcher Mackel with WDSU. He's coming up next right here on Primetime Sports.
Life is full of statistics. Thing is, I could have dropped out of school and become one myself, but I didn't, because I had people that believed in me. Here's another statistic. 7,000 students drop out every school day. That's 1 every 26 seconds. It's time that students know that we believe in them.
Inspire a student and share your message of support at boostup.org.
Welcome back to Primetime Sports. And that, by the way, Charlie Wooten is joining the band today. He is with the New Orleans Suspects now, formerly Royal Southern Brotherhood, and a guy that I've known for 20 years. But my next guest, I cannot wait, a guy that has had me on his show on Channel 6, of course, WDSU. His name's Fletcher Mackel. I've been on 3 or 4 times on your late night Sunday show. Welcome to my show now.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. By the way, last week I had a bunch of Hall of Famers on. Ricky Jackson, of course, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and Deuce is in several Hall of Fames, and Dale Brown in Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, and coaches. But there's a Hall of Fame that you belong to that I didn't realize till last night. And I have pictures of it. It's the De La Salle Hall of Fame. But I just want to know how you get this jacket. It's a beautiful jacket. It's you and your brother. And there they are right there. Look at the twins. That's Travers, I believe, on the left and you on the right. Is that correct?
That is me on the right. I don't know if anybody's paying attention to us. Jenny Morris.
Right. I mean, who's the one in the middle, by the way?
Yeah, Jenny Morris and a friend of ours. And but yeah, the jacket was about 8 sizes too big, as you can tell. I'm kind of a skinny guy. And we are not officially in the Hall of Fame for our athletic achievements.
Well, you did play baseball, and you played at Loyola and were team captain.
I did.
There's some more picks.
My brother and I played at De La Salle, then at Delgado for Joe Sherman, and then at Loyola. And but we are in the De La Salle Sports Hall of Fame with what they call the Brother Arsenius Award for those that have gone on to do good in the community.
Excellence and other things.
Yes, following, not to say we were bad players,
right,
but our athletic achievements are not Hall of Fame worthy. And it's a great award because Leon Canizero, the district attorney,
wrestler,
was a wrestler at De La Salle.
Championship team, I
believe.
Right,
but he didn't individually win a championship, so therefore he is also a recipient of the same award that we received as well. And they've done a nice job recognizing, I guess, people that have gone on to become politicians or figures in the community that were good athletes, but maybe not Hall of Fame worthy. So it's a great honor. I was happy they chose my brother and I, and we are very proud of it. And but we are not in the Hall of Fame because I was never an all-state player.
You also have the lineage. Your dad, Frank, was a
professional
golfer as well. So talk about that and your relationship. I've been growing up with that.
Yeah, I think that my father, who passed away in 2001, is still a little upset that my brother and I never got more into golf. And I think as a 41-year-old now, I wish I had gotten more into golf. Maybe the fact that my brother and I are very hyper. My father was the polar opposite of us. He was like super laid back. Maybe he should have been more of, an intense father and pushed us to golf. He let us do whatever we wanted to do, and we kind of found baseball. But I certainly wish now, maybe looking back, that I had gone into golf or pursued golf more, because I do love it. It's something that my brother and I have played since children and have always liked, but never pursued it at the level I think he wished. I do have a funny story. When my brother and I are 12 years old, and the PGA tournament was here. Back then it was the USF&G Classic. It was at Lakewood Country Club. And I remember my dad was friends with Jack Nicklaus. So my mom and dad said, we're going to dinner with Jack Nicklaus tonight. And I remember my brother and I, being little bratty kids that we were, thought, we're not doing this.
I don't want to go to dinner
Who
with
is
Jack?
this person? I could care less. I want to go into the park and take batting practice tonight. So we passed on going to dinner with Jack Nicklaus.
It's like saying no to Tiger Woods these days, kids.
Right. So as an adult, I think now, how stupid of a child was I to pass on opportunities like that.
Childish things, we all have them. Hey, by the way, you did like most people do. They go away for a little while, learn their trade. I believe you were in Alexandria, but you came back around 2002. You've been doing this 13, 14 years in New Orleans. And I remember a guy named Corey Johnson telling me, man, these Mackle brothers, they're like the eligible bachelors. They're out there dating everybody. Now you're settled down. You married to Megan last summer. But we have some shots of you around town back in the day. You and Travers, kind of run around. This is obviously just a little, was this a Halloween party or a Mardi Gras deal right there?
It's a Halloween party. I think you've raided my Facebook page.
I didn't raid your Facebook page. I actually went to Google, but I did find some good ones.
Yeah, that is a Halloween party. Travers dressed as Drew Brees, and I didn't have a costume, so I went to Magazine Street and got an oversized Dumb and Dumber ridiculous suit at the last minute.
And there's some other pictures of y'all beautiful, the beautiful people. But I have to go to this one picture in general before we get to that. You have to explain this one, because I think it's at Loyola. I don't know if you were a student, you had the glasses, and maybe it was your brother. You can blame it on him. But it wasn't the exact Fletcher Mackle that I remember. Now, is this you or Travers? And explain this.
That's me.
Okay.
And that's not that long ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's Father Kevin Wiles. This is a great story. That's Father Kevin Wiles. He's the president of Loyola University.
Yeah.
And that is in 2012 from the Summer Olympics. Kevin Wiles was on the boxing team in college and still fights in spars every day at Friday Night Fights, which is in Central City on Aretha Castle Haley.
Yeah, yes, I've been there.
He's the president of Loyola University, and every morning he goes in. That is his workout and his training.
So he's with Boxer Mike over there.
Yeah, and he still does.
Right.
He still spars and puts the headgear on. And so since I work for the NBC affiliate, and the Olympics are on NBC, every 4 years we do these silly segments called Up to the Challenge, and we see if local politicians or athletes or local celebrities are up to the challenge in Olympic sports. And he challenged me to a boxing match, so we both put on the headgear. And
I thought I pulled out some gold, because you look like you're about 21 in that picture at most. All right, let's get to some sports, because I know people want to talk about the Pelicans. I've got to start there. You and I talked a lot of basketball when I had the radio show on ESPN. And, last year I know people were counting them out, and then they made the playoff run and made it. This year, there was a little bit of hope when they won 7 of 9, and then they lose to the Lakers at home, and then the thud this past weekend with Anthony Davis getting the pregame injury, and then all of a sudden they lose by 2 to Minnesota. What's the future of this team this season and beyond?
The future of this season is
it kaput? I mean, you're just throwing it out.
I mean, look, right now as we talk, they're 23 and 35. I mean, for all practical purposes, they're playing for next season. They're to me the biggest disappointment in the NBA. Maybe the Milwaukee Bucks, because they had such high expectations as well. But the Pelicans are coming off a playoff appearance. They hire Alvin Gentry. All the talk wasn't about rebuilding or figuring things out. Alvin Gentry wins a championship and is saying AD will be here next year. Dell Demps had an opportunity to shuffle the deck and maybe do some things differently in free agency, but he doubled down on his top 12 guys and brought them all back. And sure, they've dealt with some injuries, but Monty Williams dealt with injuries as well, and he still got him to 45 games. They went 27 wins, 34 wins, 45 wins with Monty Williams. You had a program and you had development there, and you had guys that were all in. And I really believe that Dell Demps convinced Mickey Loomis and Tom Benson they were the Golden State Warriors take two.
Right.
Golden State had Mark Jackson. They finished 6th place in the Western Conference, 6th place in the Western Conference. Ownership and management felt like he's strangling this team. He's holding these guys back. They hire Steve Kerr. They go to 67 wins in an NBA championship. Dell Demps really believed in his heart and convinced Tom Benson and Mickey Loomis, Monty has taken this team as far as he can take them. Alvin can open them up, and we are going to take off. In that decision, in that thought process, in hindsight, looks disastrous.
All right,
because this isn't a core that is championship caliber in any way.
Well, it's a mixed match group, but
it's a fantasy basketball team.
It's a fantasy basketball team. Somebody said that recently, and you know what? I kind of bought into that. But who's going to be back? Because I want to get into the Saints, but I want to ask you this. Between coaches, management, and main players, who's coming back next year?
In my humble opinion, if Tom Benson and Mickey Loomis are serious about basketball, they bring in...
Big if.
Which is a big if.
Right.
Look, the Saints are the Kings. Horse racing is the new... shiny new
that's
toy.
number 2, right?
That's the shiny new toy.
Right.
And the Pelicans, look, I always joke and I tell people this, that some people find God. In 2002, I found the NBA. I love talking about the NBA. I'm a huge NBA fan, and I really appreciate the fact that Tom Benson saved basketball in New Orleans. Had he not bought this franchise, this team would be playing in Seattle or San Jose or Louisville or some other city. So I will always be grateful for Tom Benson for saving this franchise. And I understand what Mickey Loomis did with Dell Demps and the thought process behind what he wanted to do. But right now, you're falling into the area of embarrassment of the Sacramento Kings.
Right.
You are looked at as you have a star player and you're in an outpost and nobody knows if you really care about it. If you're really serious about it, you fix it this summer. You don't go down this path again with Alvin Gentry and Dell Demps. I think you make a change this summer and you bring in a different regime to show that you are truly committed to basketball. And I think it's time for Mickey Loomis. While he always says his role with the Pelicans is greatly overstated, I think you just get out of the way now and you hire someone, whether that be a Tom Thibodeau to be a general manager and a head coach, or you go hire another general manager and a head coach. I was big on Sean Marks. Sean Marks played for the New Orleans Hornets. He was recently hired away from San Antonio as the assistant general manager to be the general manager of the Brooklyn Nets. I think you show you're committed to basketball and you get a new hierarchy to put the right pieces around Anthony Davis.
All right, we're going to go to the Saints now real quick. James Laurinaitis, the Saints' worst tackling team I've seen in a long time. Heck, the best tackle of the year was when Brandon Browner hit an offensive tackle or guard and let the running back or the receiver go for the touchdown. He's here today. Quickly, what do you think about him possibly being a guy that can be a tackling machine?
Look, he started 16 games, all 16 games every year since he entered the league. He's better than what the Saints had last season. I remember when Ohio State played LSU here for the College Football National Championship. He was a guy that we interviewed and said, wow, maybe the Saints could use a player like that. And that was 8 years ago.
Right.
So if he signs with the Saints, I certainly think he'll be an upgrade in some way, shape, or form.
The draft, okay, I know you love to talk draft. I've been following you ever since I moved back here in 2012, and you're right on them many times. Pass rushers, we know we need them. I have a list right here. Take a look at this group. Who do you like out of this list? Some linebackers, some defensive ends. You know they need somebody to get to the quarterback. Who do you like?
Yeah, Darren Lee has been my guy since the end of the college football season. He's got the intangibles I think Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis want. Former high school quarterback, smart player, class act, team leader, and he ran a 4.47 at the Combine. I liked him last month. After running a 4.47 and dazzling people in interviews, I'm not sure he gets to 12 now.
Right.
If he gets to 12, I like Darren Lee.
Right.
But I certainly wouldn't be opposed to any of the ends you had on there as well, or even a defensive tackle if a guy like a Sean Robinson from Alabama gets there.
Great crop right there, by the way. For the once, the Saints, in their wheelhouse, they have players. And wrapping up, I want to talk about Marcus Colston. Obviously, he made it official yesterday. We've known this for probably a couple months, and they kind of made an announcement a couple weeks ago or last week. But here he is right here. When it comes down to greatest receivers of all time, is there any doubt he's number one in Saints history?
No, I mean, look, Eric Martin, when I was growing up in New Orleans, was the guy, and I'll always have a soft spot for Eric Martin. But with Marcus Colston, I think you look at statistically, and I know he played in a passing era with Drew Brees as his quarterback and Sean Payton as his head coach. But Joe Horn's a guy, too, that I love. But
I'm old enough to remember every one of these guys.
Yeah,
Danny Abramowitz, I grew up with.
Right, and so I look at those top three and say they're special, but I would definitely put Colston. I don't know if you're ranking them on that board is order of, are you the greatest? But in my opinion, Marcus Colston is the greatest.
Kind of did that. Wes Chandler was only here 3 years, so people might say, or maybe 4, but bottom line is, I think those are the top 6. But Fletcher, I think you're one of the top guys, not just in New Orleans, but in the country at what you do. I tape your show every night, and I appreciate you coming on mine.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
There you go. Fletcher Mackel. Check him out every night on Channel 6, WDSU. And we're coming right back. I've got the Cajun Cannon. There's no introduction needed for Bobby Hebert. He's coming up next, right here on Primetime Sports.
North Shore Basketball Training Center is located at 70239 Highway 59 in Abita Springs. Here we offer developmental programs for all ages, focusing on structure, hard work, putting forth great effort, and teamwork. North Shore Basketball Training Center also offers year-round basketball teams, leagues, camps, speed and agility conditioning, and other programs to help enrich our students. North Shore Basketball Training Center, 985-373-7367 or NorthShoreSportsplex.com. Located at 109 Wall Boulevard in Gretna, Uniforms by Logo Express provides school uniforms, medical wear, hospitality wear, safety and industrial wear, and so much more. We offer a number of locations on both sides of the river. 2 in Chantilly, 1 in Woodmere, and our main store located in Gretna. Uniforms by Logo Express. Your brand starts here.
Welcome back, Crescent City, and we've had a lot of great Saints guests, even only in our 3rd week. Last week it was Ricky Jackson, of course, the Pro Football Hall of Famer. We also had Deuce McAllister, Saints Hall of Fame, Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Jabari Greer before that, to me, the best cornerback in Saints history, and current Saint Delvin Bro, but maybe the most recognizable one around the state of Louisiana in the city of New Orleans is my next guest, Bobby Hebert, the Cajun Cannon.
What's up, Scott?
Restaurateur, by the way.
Yeah.
Bobby Hebert's Cajun Cannon. Tell me how the restaurant's going.
Well, it's doing well. Now a year and a half it's been open. I tell you what, it's really been popular. And hey, who doesn't like fried seafood? And it's not a type of food that you'd eat every day, but if you want to eat something just for the taste, I mean, the restaurant is unbelievable. Whether you're looking at the pasta or the crab cakes, it's meat. It's not filler. So
I've heard it's incredible.
Yeah, it's been
and
awesome.
Since I gave you a Legacy Kitchen, perhaps we could trade.
Yeah,
gift
right.
certificates.
That's right.
Hey, by the way, speaking of restaurants, I have to bring this up. I think the first time you and I ever had dinner may have been 15 years ago, somewhere around there in Atlanta. You, me, Corey Johnson, a guy that owned another restaurant was with us, and a guy named Rush Limbaugh ended up sitting next to us. Do you remember this?
We were
night?
at a steakhouse. What was
Bone
it?
Steakhouse.
Yeah, Bone
in
Steakhouse.
Atlanta,
right.
the old school steakhouse. It's
Now, was Rush there with his wife, or that was his girlfriend?
Yeah. Okay, well, since it's all over now, he was married, and he was with my former intern who had become a CNN anchor. And I think it's out there now, Darren Kagan.
Right.
And they were trying to be on the down low.
Right.
And you like, Rush, you just like yelling, Rush, Rush, come sit with us. And so Rush is like, Bobby, I don't know you.
Well, I had met Rush. We do these celebrity golf tournaments,
Right.
and I think it was in Florida. And you meet everyone. I think we were in a foursome. So remember Neil O'Donnell, the whole with the Steelers,
Yes,
quarterback. So that was my first. You have your pairings party and you kind of hang out, and that's when Rush was really up and coming. So that was
By the
one
way,
of those
speaking
moments.
of Neil O'Donnell, what a segue you had no idea about. Did you know that he is the guy right ahead of you on the yardage list? Like,
really?
You're 94th right now.
Oh, wow.
At 21,000 plus in the NFL.
So the USFL doesn't count.
No, this is where I'm gonna help you out,
Okay.
my man. This is where I'm gonna help you out. He's 93, and 94 is Gus Frerotte. There's guys like Jake Delhomme around there.
Right.
But this is what I'm saying. People don't realize You spent some time like Herschel Walker. If they added all his yards, he'd be the leading rusher in the NFL. You had 13,003 something in the USFL. If you added that up, you would be at 23.
Whoa.
About 35,000 yards plus.
And it is pro
and
football.
you would be 1 yard ahead of Jim Kelly. You'd be like, but then again, I'd have to add all his Houston Gambler yards, and you'd be back. But still, do you ever think about that? What could have been on these big lists all the time?
Scott, I've actually thought about that, and to me, that it's not even close. You know who's the #1 quarterback as far as yardage professionally? Warren Moon.
Yeah, he's the guy.
If you
CFL
count
right.
Canadian football
League, right.
and what he's done, that's why to me, and talk about spin it. You know, when you look at quarterbacks and how they could throw, and no matter what the conditions and whether it's a pretty ball or not, Warren Moon, as a 40-year-old, can hang with any 20-year-old, 18-year-old, whatever. I mean, Warren Moon was unbelievable. The reason why I know this, I saw so much film on Warren Moon through June Jones because of the run and shoot.
Yep.
Learning to play the run and shoot. And I would see throws that Warren Moon make, I would be like, whoa.
Unbelievable.
How did he do that? Now I'm talking about even as an old man, could spin it like he was a 20-year-old, and you could see the difference, like Peyton Manning. He doesn't throw the same.
No.
Or even the Tom Brady, Joe Montana. There was nothing like Warren Moon that I've seen in a 40-year-old the way he could throw it.
Interesting. The one thing you have on Warren Moon is you were all about winning. And you know what you have in common with Jake Delhomme and Milt Plum? How many people won't remember Milt Plum?
Now, wait, tell me how Milt Plum. Not Jake Plum or Milt Plum. No, who's Milt Plum?
Milt Plum was older. Okay, don't worry about that. My point is that you were tied for 76 in winning percentage with these guys. However, if you hadn't gone to the Atlanta Falcons, it might have been a lot better. We have a graphic, the winning percentage of you with the USFL, which is very high. By the way, Bobby won a championship immediately with the Michigan Panthers. 661 winning percentage. You had 1 year with the Oakland Invaders. Obviously, they merged. The Saints, look at this, 653. That would put you in the upper stratosphere, like top 10, 12%.
Whoa.
I mean, top 10 or 12
So
of
being
all
a
time.
winning quarterback.
But you went to the Falcons, and you might have to explain yourself here because a lot of people might forget, but I lived there.
The supporting
and it was
cast.
hard for me to forget. But you went 7-18. That winning percentage is 28%.
Well, the supporting cast wasn't as good, obviously, when you're playing with the Dome Patrol. And, you know, to get the double-digit wins, 10, 11, 12 wins, you know, it is a team effort. I did make the Pro Bowl, though, in 94 with the Falcons.
No, you're 93. It was your first year.
And that last year, my elbow was shot. I still think I had, 23, 24 touchdowns. I thought I was stealing money. In hindsight, I said, well, maybe I should have milked it and played a couple of more years. You know, and, George Seifert, of all coaches, who was the 49ers with Carolina, actually wanted me to go to Carolina. But I thought, like, God, you know, my arm's just not right. I can't make all the throws. I know mentally where to go, but they ended up getting Steve Berline.
Right.
You remember Steve Berline with Carolina? So
I actually worked with him.
You know, but I look back, and you play long enough, you know that you're a mercenary. You're a hard gun. Who knows? We're on the verge of really looking or trying to understand whether Peyton Manning is going to retire or not. Because we know he loves to play and loves to compete. Listen, you could say, when is enough? Now, if his neck's fine and you know, come March, April, and you're feeling all right, if he's trying to broaden his brand, what better place than Los Angeles and the Rams?
No kidding. I mean, no kidding.
You can have nationwide
and
plus.
They won him.
Right. Jeff Fisher's a big Peyton Manning fan. Great supporting cast. They got the defense. Come on, you know Todd Gurley. He's about the best of the best.
He's going to be the next great one. You're right.
Right. So
why not?
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, if they're willing to pay him $20 million, it's hard to pass on that when all's said and done.
I want to look at your playing career. I'm talking back to South Lafourche. You won a state championship. I believe it was 77.
77.
You went to Northwestern State here in Louisiana. You win everywhere you go. I mean, listen, Michigan Panthers, they won the title that first year. You got to the playoffs, and they say the greatest game ever in the USFL against Steve Young with the LA Express. But the Oakland Invaders, you got to the finals twice. You beat Moore once. You lost it once. You come to the Saints, first winning season. You obviously go to the Pro Bowl with the Falcons. You're all about winning, and that's all you've ever done. I don't think you get enough credit here in New Orleans for being a big part of that winning.
Because I'm blue collar. I'm just like your everyday guy. You know, I'm not an elitist, so I think somewhat they go, that's Bobby Hebert, you know, and kind of like sometimes I think I get a pass, a local pass, kind of like Charles Barkley. well, that's just Bobby being Bobby. And I'll say some stuff like, whoa, how did he get away with that? And stuff.
Actually, now that I hear it, you're right. I think you do get that Manny Ramirez pass.
Because I think I'm just going to be totally honest, and sometimes maybe you can't do that. Journalism 101, or I'm not a journalist. I mean, I'm not trained to be that. I'm a conversationalist. So I'm going to be the voice of the fans, so to speak. But going back to you saying what I'm proud of, because Drew Brees is going to have all the records, and it is supporting cast. You talk about winning record. It took Drew Brees 4 more games to get to 49 wins than I was able to accomplish. Now, I take the approach, and I'm humble enough and realize that if you put Drew Brees with the Dome Patrol, instead of winning a Super Bowl, we might 2 that, 3 that, repeat that, all that. I mean,
well, we have a graphic with that same winning percentage that people might be a little surprised. Drew Brees obviously has the Super Bowl championship, a few more playoff wins, but look at that percentage. 653 for Bobby Hebert. Regular season, Drew Brees, 595. Obviously, a couple 7 and 9s lately aren't helping his case. Aaron Brooks is there. These are all the quarterbacks that had at least 40 starts. I think Kilmer had 40, but I wanted to do 5. Archie Manning played with some very bad teams, although I consider him, maybe because I grew up with him, elite guy. But Bobby, I had to give you your due. You're a winner, and you've won everywhere. By the way, let's talk about the class of '83 quarterbacks. Everybody remembers that class if you're old enough. Obviously, Dan Marino was a late first rounder. John Elway, Dan Marino, Jim Kelly, Hall of Famers, no question. Tony Eason played in the Super Bowl, although he got mauled by the Bears.
Right.
Blackledge was a disappointment. Great announcer, though. Ken O'Brien had some great years with the Jets. No quarterback was picked for the next 3 rounds, okay? Then the next one, they had a guy in the 5th round who, by the way, from Eastern Illinois, a guy named Christensen, who was the precursor to Sean Payton, quarterback in there, and then Babe Laufenberg, and then Gary Kubiak, who ends up winning the Super Bowl. But you took some money. You took the route to the USFL.
Well, I had a wife and kid to support. You need to put back up that list.
Put it back up,
because I got to elaborate a little bit on that list. When I look at this list, and we hoping every year in the draft we have 1 or 2 guys that could be franchise quarterback that'll potentially start 10-plus years. Myself, and Ken O'Brien, were the only small college guys. He went to UC Davis.
Yes.
And with the Jets. So when I look at that now, out of all that list, I wasn't quick, and you might be, he's lumbering. When I ran a 40-yard dash, the only one on that list who ran faster than me? Tony Eason.
Really?
In a 40-yard dash.
He couldn't run away from the Chicago Bears 46.
But when you run in a straight line, it's different than your quickness and maneuverability and all that stuff. But when I look at that class, and I can tell you why I went in the USFL. Gil Brandt was running the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
And basically the Michigan Panthers drafted me, had a wife and kid to support, and they guaranteed me $250,000. And I was on food stamps.
No brainer.
I was on food stamps for 4 months. Talk about rags to riches. I said, the combine then, it just started. It was in Tampa, Florida. It wasn't even in Indianapolis. They didn't even move it then. So Gil Brandt said, well, you come to the combine, you do well, you might get drafted late 2nd round. For sure, about a 3rd round. I said, well, what can you guarantee me? Well, we don't do that. Well, I said, I don't know if there's any Cajuns in Michigan, but I'm going.
And this is a no-brainer.
And got hooked up with Anthony Carter. And I thought if I played well enough and accomplished things, that if I'm good enough, I'll end up in the NFL anyway. Kind of the same approach as Jim Kelly. The Buffalo Bills didn't want to pay Jim Kelly, so he goes to the Houston Gamblers.
Same thing.
And
he was the 14th. Hey, look at this graphic because people, the greatest USFL quarterbacks, and once again, I want to remind people that maybe you're too young to know this. This was a league that was around for 4 years. Bobby played in it for 3 years, 83, 84, 85. And by the way, you played 44 games that 85 year because you played for the Saints too. But Bobby and Jim were easily the top 2. Steve Young was great, but not in their range for the USFL.
Right.
Herschel Walker probably would be considered the greatest player in the league, but you were the best quarterback. You were named that. You were the.
Well, I got MVP offense in 1983, and listen, Donald Trump and the New Jersey Generals, they didn't beat us.
No.
That if I look, in Donald Trump trying to make a big splash even back then, who does he get? Heisman Trophy winners, also Doug Flutie.
Exactly.
New Jersey Generals, they never beat us, and. So when I look back, it gave me the exposure to win a championship that first season in '85. to play in the Meadowlands. We had lost to Coach Moore and ended up playing against Coach Moore, then with Coach Moore with the Saints. Just that in general, when you look at how you cross paths.
Y'all's relationship has been interesting. We'll get into that on another show, but I have a couple questions. I have a date for you. What does August 19th, I'm not sure I should say the year, but I will, 1960 mean to you?
Oh, that was my birthday.
That's yours?
Yeah.
No, Morton Anderson's. You two were born on the very same day.
Yes.
You have to have had a blowout or two.
And then also Bill Clinton.
On the same day?
August 9th. No, not the same day, but August 19th.
But the same day as 1960, you two were born.
Martin Anderson and I, that's why we're so close. And we'd be like, we were also, in the locker room. Our lockers were always next to each other because I'm number 3, he's number 7. With the Saints and the Falcons, and we figured it out. His mom figured out he was like 6 hours older than I am with the time change and everything. So Martin Anderson and I, the Great Dane.
He's 6 hours older than you?
Older than me.
Why does he look so young in the pictures? I saw him at training camp. The guy looks like he's 40.
Yeah, but he's fatter. I'm fat, but he's even fatter. I mean, it's like we both we looked at each other. God, we feel like fat bastard or something.
I got one more date. What does February 9th? Of 1983 mean to you? 1989 mean to you?
Say it again now.
February 9th, 1989. Do you remember that date at all?
No, I don't.
You don't remember it all? Hey, nothing big happened to you?
No.
Nothing big happened to you? Put your hand down. Put your hand down. You don't remember when this guy was born?
Tournament is?
That's T-Bob Abear, Bobby's son right there.
No, T-Bob was born. What's up?
Don't even remember my own birthday when I'm right behind you?
I'm thinking it's some sports tricks. Like, what happened?
Hey, we're coming right back with T-Bob Abear and his dad, Bobby, right here on Primetime Sports.
Mondays at 6 p.m. on WLAE.
Welcome back, Crescent City. It's already been a fun show. Bobby Abear was so much fun. I'm keeping him here, and I'm bringing his son together. T-Bob, along with Bobby, father, son.
Yes.
And by the way, were you surprised, Bobby?
Totally. I don't get surprised. Usually I could figure out what's going to come ahead.
Like,
but I was shocked. I thought it was something like sports related, but like, hello, February 9th, T-Bob born 1989.
I was told we were going to play the X-Wing miniatures game.
That's
I'm also a bit confused.
So you're
I don't see
surprised
any.
as well.
I don't see any X-Wing
There's
anywhere.
no Warhammer out here.
Yeah, what's going
what
on?
What are we doing here? By the way, a renowned gamer. T-Bob is right there. And by the way, I have to say something because I did this to my kids, but they weren't born yet. I brought myself and my ex-wife to Atlanta, and we're Louisiana folks, and they were raised in Georgia, having to fight off all the Georgia folks, the Falcons fans, and they were hardcore LSU and Saints fans. What was it like for you growing up in Georgia as an LSU fan?
So, okay, so absolutely as an LSU, I was a massive LSU fan, right? My grandpa brainwashed. That's my dad's dad.
58 championship. He was hanging around LSU, right?
Exactly right. He went there in the 50s. He's been actually. I like this little fact. He's been at every LSU national championship. So there's not many people out there that can say that. So I always dealt with the Georgia fans, and there were good years, like 03, where you beat them twice, once in Death Valley and in the SEC championship, and then there were bad years, which I think the next year actually they lost twice to Georgia in the regular season and in the SEC championship. Now the Saints-Falcons dynamic,
that's the funny part.
Gets a bit more interesting.
It's a bit muddled.
Yes, because, and I don't know, this is not something that he would maybe want to admit nowadays, being the father of the Houdat Nation, but I was not raised to like the Saints. I was
breaking news.
I was raised
news.
that the Saints had
he
maybe
had a bitter battle with Jim Finks.
Yes, exactly.
A contract battle, which is well known. He sat out a year.
Jim Finks was a name in my childhood. He kind of represents a villain.
Like
I didn't know who he was. I didn't know anything about him except that we did not like him.
He was this person out there you had no idea, but you know you're supposed to hate him.
Yes.
Well, and you have to think about it. I'm going to expose T-Bob job and his little brother to
Bo.
be in an NFL locker room.
Yeah.
So if you're in the Falcons locker room and you're aware of Falcons players, why wouldn't you?
Oh, well, that's the other thing, too.
As a little boy.
I have no memories of
you're like
Saints
4 or
games.
5, 6 years
I was
old.
too
7.
young.
Yeah.
Like, I have some memories of Falcons
I
games.
just thought about this. I met you, by the way, giving you guys tickets to
the Hawks
Hawks
forever
game.
ago.
Big basketball fan.
I
your
was
dad is.
diehard Hawks fan.
You were too, and I covered him for years. And your brother Bo loved Steve Nash. I know that.
Yes.
And I got y'all tickets. Y'all already had season tickets. I just upgraded you a few
Right,
times to the
exactly.
court.
It was, I had a lot of fun at those games, man, absolutely. And some of my best memories going to those Hawks games I mean, we would go nearly every game. And I was telling him about this yesterday. They made the playoffs every year, right? They never really won anything. They had a great team. Mookie Blaylock, Steve Smith, Mutombo was in there.
Christian Laettner.
Laettner showed up for a time. Stacey Augmon, the plastic man. So they had these teams.
My man knows it.
And
I
they
love
make the playoffs every year, but I was spoiled where I was like, that's not good enough. Now, with what we're experiencing here in New Orleans, I would kill for that kind of success if the Pelicans could
They had a
recreate
guy
it.
named Michael Jordan that happened to be in their own conference.
Yeah,
it was
exactly,
either him or
right,
Patrick
yeah,
Ewing, and you had to
yeah.
get by them.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got to bring this up because I don't want to run out of time. We talked about Bobby's winning percentage when he was in the USFL, the Saints, and then that porous one with the Falcons. But your winning percentage as an LSU Tiger, by the way, T-Bob started 26 games. He played in 42 in his career. 2007, they win a national championship. You come in, and you're one of the rare players that has an improvement every year. In fact, that last year, arguably the greatest regular season in NCAA football history. They beat non-ranked teams, most of them in the top 10. They beat the eventual national champion who beat them. And then they beat the Orange Bowl champion,
And
the Rose Bowl champion.
yeah,
They beat everybody that year, but they couldn't get across the 50. And unfortunately, that's the greatest season that no one wants to talk about any of the great games except for the one you didn't win.
It's kind of like, I've always likened it to kind of spending your entire life trying to climb this mountain or climb this hill, reach the summit, and then right when you're on the precipice, right? You're like about to climb up the final rung of the ladder, and
You need to be
somebody
an actor,
just,
my man.
boom, somebody
You got
just
the-
kicks you down, man.
You
So.
got the drama.
Look, it sucks now that I've gotten a little distance from it. I really hold almost fully positive memories about the year and really my whole time at LSU. Like you said, starting with those guys in 07, grinding our way up every year, really struggling in 08, and then improving from then on out. And a couple things, one of the most proud accomplishments that I have for my time there is that my last 2 years, we went undefeated at home. So if you were a student at LSU at the time, you did not have to watch us lose in Tiger Stadium, which we took a lot of pride in.
Well, and you look at that season. I mean, how can it be? Because it's all about hype a lot of times. How can it be the game of the century when they won 9-6?
Yeah, well, it was an epic battle, though, Bobby.
But I mean,
it was epic.
But it's like, now I think it's overhyped everything now. Oh, this is the game of the century, 9-6, and then you eventually still have to play a national championship. Yeah,
Which
we got lucky to win the
You
first
guys
time.
wanted to play them
I agree.
again, but then in retrospect, did you feel it's not really fair to have to do it again?
Like, if we're being honest with ourselves, I don't think anybody wanted to play them again.
But y'all kept saying publicly, bring them on.
Yes, well, you have to, right? I mean, you can't be like, no, we don't really
want any part of them.
They were by far the best team that we played, and the numbers bear it out. Go look at the amount of NFL players in that first LSU Alabama
it's the most
game.
of all time.
Yeah, it's absurd. It's like
the most
40
of any
something.
game ever played in college, the most
Wow.
pros. It beat Miami, Florida State from a few years earlier.
Wow.
Still to this day. Second teamers are in there. By the way, that season started off Oregon
that
in
was an awesome
Dallas,
game.
I believe. And then you had 11 pancakes. By the way, this guy had 198 knockdown blocks. I counted every play, by the way. I'm a research nut. 1,834 plays he was in at LSU. What's the play you remember the most?
Oh, the play I remember the most. I think it goes back to maybe my favorite game of all time, and there's a couple. A lot of people point to the Tennessee game, it was absolutely absurd.
I actually produced that for CBS. That's the last game I've ever done.
So that was crazy because
Steve
I've
Berline was
never
in the
had
booth.
had an experience where it's like it literally comes down to the last play. There were 0 seconds left on the clock. It's 1 yard. Try to get in the end zone, but the one that I remember more than anything.
Let me tell people that's the 13 men on the field.
Yes.
You hike the ball. And
very lucky.
If you don't hike it, they don't win.
That's true. Right. I had no clue there were 13 people on the field. I knew we had to get some sort of playoff.
To me, and I think you've told me this, he realized he had to snap the ball because of what happened at Ole Miss the year before.
Yeah, when I didn't snap the ball, we lost.
It was like, okay, you kind of programmed to do what the quarterback says, whatever, and it's like, whoa. Should we not doing anything? I can't let this happen again.
There were mistakes that went down at the end of the game. If you're going to call a run play without a timeout, you need to have a follow-up. We did it. But my favorite play ever has got to be junior year at Florida. We hadn't won in the Swamp in like a decade.
Okay.
And last second, once again, 3rd and goal, and fade touchdown to Terrence Tolliver. One foot in with the fingertips with like
exactly
3 seconds up.
And right.
The year before, the worst game I ever played in college, the worst grade I ever got was Florida my sophomore year against Spikes and all them. And they had stomped on the eye of the Tiger in Tiger Stadium. Right. And so I'll never forget, immediately after we knew that Terrence scored and we won the game, running out to that F and just jumping on it again. Because even 2 years ago, I had gotten knocked out in the Florida game, to the point where the game where we got decimated by Tebow and company. And I mean, I was so knocked out that when I came to, I was on a knee at the 50 with the Florida team. So it was like I had a lot of bad blood that was excised that 2010 game in the Swamp.
I have to bring this up. Championship game. Your son doesn't play. Jarrett Lee doesn't play. Russell Shepard doesn't play. He was like the main recruit that, helped get other recruits there. Not to bring up a sore subject. You went off on Les, and I want to know the genesis of that and how you reacted. This is your dad, but he said all the right things. He didn't ask anything that should have been asked, but I want to know how you reacted, and just kind of in a nutshell. I don't have a lot of time.
Well, T-Bob can't control me. He knows that. He goes like, what are you talking about? That's my dad. He's crazy kind of, thing.
It's one of those things where probably the only really annoying side effect of it, because it was a legitimate question, is just that now nobody believes me about any of the rumors about, mutinies and revolts.
The conspiracy theories?
Yes, and Jordan Jefferson, and I punched him in the face and told Coach Miles, I'm not playing unless you play Jarrett. But, come on, man.
I'm not going to play.
So none of that's true. I'm frustrated. I think some bad decisions were made, but it's not all one-sided, man. We got outcoached and outplayed, and 99% of my time at LSU was all positive memories, and I'm very happy.
I got to ask you a question, because obviously the apple does fall far from the tree in one sense. Why do you not cheer in the press box like your dad?
Okay, so he, and you said it earlier in the show, he says he's not a journalist. I don't think of myself as a journalist either, but
there he is.
I'm not, that was hilarious. I'm not necessarily, I don't have the skins on the wall, right? I'm not, his resume speaks for himself when he's dealing with these talking about sports in a professional manner. Whereas I think I have to sell people a little more that I'm trying to approach this from more of a journalistic mindset.
From more mature aspect.
He's learned. Hey, before I let it go,
I would say this, T-Bob's always more mature than me, and so that's just.
I got it, but he does play video games.
I mean, come on, it's like I was in the LSU press box.
I have to put this graphic up. Have you ever Googled yourself? Because this is kind of funny. You put the T up, and then you get the basic stuff like Target, Toys R Us, and the Oscars. And then you put the dash. You get T-Mobile and then T-Rex the dinosaur.
That makes sense.
Then you put the B after that. You get T-Bone Steak and the rapper. And then T-Bois Blues Fest and LaRose, and obviously the OG. But you put T-Bob, there's only one thing.
Yes.
Bobby, you're not getting Bobby Hebert. You get T-Bob Hebert.
That's true. So I've never met anyone with the name T-Bob until the other day on Twitter. This is really weird. I came across a girl who works in Houston in sports radio, and she goes by T-Bob, and she was at LSU at the same time that I was, and now we're both in radio. So we kind of were chatting back and forth, saying this is probably the first time there's
ever been two
T-Bobs.
I can only imagine what a girl named T-Bob looks like.
Actually.
She's a looker?
She's pretty hot.
All right.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And he is, man. He has a beautiful wife, by the way.
Yes.
This is a tradition that we have started with Ricky Jackson and Deuce McAllister.
Awesome.
And I want you guys to sign on that fat part up there.
Awesome. And but Scott, looking at the LSU press box, that's why I remember LSU Alabama game. Okay, why am I going to cheer for Alabama. I mean, come on, it's LSU Alabama. That's why I can't be in the
Bobby
press
and I were
box.
sitting next to each other at the Pelicans Golden State. The Pels had a 20-point lead going to the fourth, and he said, "Did they have any chance of losing this?" I said, "Yes, they did."
talking about the
and
playoff
they did.
game?
This was last year. Bobby was cheering the whole
I
time.
was there. I didn't have a voice for days just from yelling, "Rebound."
Bobby's signature will not be missed because it is the biggest I've seen. I do appreciate it.
It's like Cajun Cannon, do that. He used to do Saints/Falcons, very meticulous.
We have to do this again sometime without the
Absolutely,
surprise. Man. I want to thank, obviously, these two guys, Bobby Hebert.
Thanks, Scott.
T-Bob Hebert.
Scott, always a pleasure, man. Absolutely.
Fletcher Mackel, and then Tennessee coach, obviously, Donnie Tyndall. My man in the band right there, Charlie Wooten with the New Orleans Suspects. Our regular guy, Devin Taylor. The guys that missed from, Derek Freeman in the MFG. Want to thank Will Hill, my producer. The fill-in guys in the band, Ron Yeager and Jim Dotson, and everybody that works so hard on this show. Y'all have a great night, and we'll see you again next week on Primetime Sports.